Welcome to Fulfillment in Faith, where we will dive deep into self-discovery, empowerment, and manifesting the life you desire. I'm your host, Shannon Mondor, and through my own experiences with addiction, sobriety, and personal growth, I've learned invaluable lessons that I'm passionate about sharing with you. Now let's start creating a life you love. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast, Fulfillment in Faith. I am your host, Shannon Mondor, and today I have an absolutely lovely guest by the name of Julie Deanne. Welcome, Julie. How are you?
Hi, Shannon. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start off, Julie, by you telling the audience members a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and then from there, you can just go right into your story.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shannon, and audience members. Lovely to be here today. So Shannon and I have really hit it off since we met not that long ago, but we're both TEDx speakers. So I am now a transformational life dream builder coach, illumination guide, TEDx speaker, and international best-selling author of both 365 Days of Gratitude, which is an international best-selling series, and my children's book, Which Would You Choose? And more on the book in a moment, because that's what led me to where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll rewind. I actually want to take you back to two very key pivotal moments in my life that led to where I am today. One was about almost 20 years ago. I was at the tail end. I'd been married for over 9 years. And one morning, I'll just lay it out on the line. I was driving back from the university where I had been an assistant teacher, and thought that my husband was, studying. And lo and behold, all of a sudden my body gets all tingly, and I felt like I was floating. It was the strangest feeling, and I had no idea why, until I recognized up ahead, I recognized my van, the car that my husband drove. And I was asking myself, why in the world was the van there going away from the school when he told me he was in the school studying, right? And then my eyes caught a passenger, a silhouette with long hair. And by the time I was able to maneuver my way up in traffic to be side by side and look over, I just remember he had this muffin in his hand, and he was about to take a bite. And I must have honked the horn or something, or rolled down the window and yelled, and he stopped. And he looks over at me, and oh my gosh, I could see past his face to the young, very young, redheaded girl whom I did not know, sitting in the passenger seat, and her face went ashen. And I knew in that moment, this was not just some friend.
Yeah.
So it was, I tried to deny it. I tried to deny the fact. I kept trying to tell myself, well, they're just friends, even though I followed them back to her apartment where they were going, by the way. And the whole story came out. He'd been having an affair, but that wasn't the first one. That was actually his second.
You just saying that, like, my whole blood is like at the bottom of my feet now.
I still feel it in my body, even though it's been so long ago. But you know what? I will say this: our thoughts create. And I know that now. I did not know that then. But looking back, I recognize, as terrible as that was, as everything. I did actually. I take responsibility now, because I knew within the first 6 months of our marriage that I'd made a mistake. But my pride would not let me admit it. I didn't want to admit that I had married the wrong person, and that there were several signs and several things, but I stayed in it. And like I said, I was married for 10 years.
Okay,
So it still took me another year after I found out. We went through the marriage counseling, all that stuff. It took me another year before I finally recognized I can't ever trust him again. And And if I stayed in that marriage, my soul would just wither and die.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing is, I used to tell him, hey, as far as I'm concerned, when we were dating, we dated for 4 years. He was my first love and all that. Oh, and in my mind, we already are married, right? You're the love of my life, yada, yada, yada. And I used to tell him, well, the only thing you could ever do that would make me leave you is to cheat on me, as if that's never going to happen, right?
And you
But
planted the
that's what I
seed.
used to actually say.
Planted the
What
seed
you
by saying that.
Exactly, exactly. And I didn't recognize it then. I totally know that now. But I also recognize, I was a different person then. And yes, I had some of the best times of my life, but some of the worst times of my life. And it was a needy relation. It was a needy, loving relation. It wasn't a mature, loving relationship, right?
Right.
I know that now. But so it took that to get me out and to move me here. So I accepted a new job. I went down. Once I decided to get divorced, it was like, whew, that's the power of decision. Once you decide, forces do start moving, the energies. And I literally felt it. I felt compelled to get down to that courthouse. It was within days of making the decision. And that was the fastest, quickest divorce, 30 days, uncontested, and it was over. And I was in a new state, in a new job, all alone for the first time in my life, not knowing anyone. And I was okay. And not only was I okay, I was thriving, but there was a lot of healing that I had to go through, right? So then is my next 10-year span where the first few years, or there were a few years in the middle where I was just learning and figuring out and going through self-help, right? And then I met my daughter's father, and we we dated, and then we got into a relationship and everything. And, we didn't get married, but I learned a lot about how to let people be themselves and me still be myself. Now, I was still healing, I was still going through things, but I learned a lot of independence and self-resilience in that relationship because the communication was, well, there almost wasn't any, put it that way.
Mhm.
And it was very rough. And so then we come to COVID. Right before COVID, I finally made the decision, this just isn't working. And what kind of an example am I showing my daughter? And that's why this is a key moment. I had my daughter, she was at that time, I think 7 or 8. And I felt like the example that I'm giving her is of a dysfunctional relationship, and of a mom and a woman and a worker who, is willing to work all day and support a family for someone, for a partner, spouse, boyfriend, whatever you want to call it, who is completely unappreciative and not helpful and not holding his weight. This was not a mutually supportive or mutually loving relationship. I won't get into the nuts and bolts of it, but I finally got up the nerve to ask him to move out after we had been together for almost 10 years. And do you know what his response was?
No, what?
He said, okay.
That was
And
it.
at first,
There was
that
no
was it.
why. There was no, I want you back. Like, can we work on, like, nothing. Wow.
I said, look, all we do is fight. We haven't really talked in a year, which was almost true. And when we do talk, we only talk about the kids, or we're arguing, and it's not good for the kids. It's not good for you and me. I'm asking you to move out. And he just said, okay. And at first it was like, whoo, relief. Okay, at least he's not, getting upset or whatever. But then it was like, oh my gosh, it was indignation. How dare you just say okay after 10 years?
Okay.
But
Like,
you know what?
okay.
That was the second best decision I ever made.
That is
I
unbelievable.
mean, it opened me up. Oh my gosh, because within weeks of him moving out, we had COVID, the world shut down. I was sent home with my daughter. I was able to spend time with her. I was able to reconnect. And you know what I started doing? I started meditating every day, morning and night, and even throughout. It became like brushing your teeth every single day. It wasn't just this, oh, I'll do it here and there, or now and again. I'd been meditating before I had her when I was pregnant, but then I kind of stopped and then I didn't really do it. And when I started meditating every day, I'm no kidding, within 2 weeks, I was already feeling the effects. And I'm not just talking about calming down because I wasn't going into the job or whatever. This was a type of connection and inner peace and calm that I had never felt before, that I could not remember ever feeling. And yet it felt like coming home because I was connecting within to my core essence. And I thought, where has this been my whole life? How come no one ever taught me this? Why don't they teach this? Why do my parents, they didn't know in schools? And that's when it came to me. I said, why don't they teach this in schools? Children need to know the power of meditation. And that's what sparked, that became my mission. Getting meditation taught in schools. And then how do we do it in a way that is fun, that is quick and easy, that teachers can implement into their daily lessons, simply, and yet be powerful and effective. And so I started coming up with something, coming up with a practice that takes less than 10 minutes. And I worked with my daughter, and together we were going through it. And I call it a time within, taking a time within. And the most important thing is you don't even have to call it meditation. I say, in the beginning, we're just focusing on breathing, deep, slow breathing, because that's the number one way to instantly calm the body. I learned that from Dr. Libby Weaver. If you take a deep, slow belly breath, and then you exhale for longer than you inhale, that's the key. You're exhaling longer than you inhale, then it's your body's way of sending a signal to your mind that you're safe. So that takes you out of the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, and it puts you into the parasympathetic, the rest, digest, create mode. And so then when your body's calm, then your mind starts to quiet and it calms down. And then you can actually observe what your thoughts are. And then the next key, the next powerful thing is gratitude. Mm-hmm. Connect to gratitude, feel gratitude, speak it, talk, write it. But in that moment, when you start reciting things that you're thankful and grateful for, it is the switch. It is the switch that will turn any situation around and not only halt it, but it will start to move you up. You'll start to feel better. And once you're in that place, then you just start making those positive statements. You start making positive choices for how you want to think and feel and how you want your day to go. Very simple things. I am enough. I am absolutely lovable just as I am.
And like with you talking there about meditation too, I found what was difficult for me when I first started to meditate years ago was the pressure of, am I doing it right? How do you do all of that, right? And that is really what stops a lot of people from doing meditation. But I want the audience members to know that if you go for a walk, that is meditation. If you listen to music, that is meditation. Anything really that brings you to that present moment is meditation. And that's why I love yoga. I love yoga.
And I started doing yoga too. I do love it. Yes.
Yes. Because it brings you to your present moment. It brings you to your breath. And a lot of times when I'm doing my yoga as well too, that's when I really start to focus on the really things that are important to me. That was also what brought me into my first states of gratitude. And it brought me into the first state of gratitude, looking at my body and being thankful for my body, being thankful that I can move and flow like that. And what was the most amazing thing after I really started to practice and I started practicing full time, the things that I could do and the strength blew me away. Never would I have thought that, being a woman 55 years old.
And also, don't you feel the space that you create within your body doing yoga, because you're allowing for the breath to come in and out and the stretching? Yeah. Oh my God. I always feel amazing after yoga. It doesn't matter if it's a short session or a longer session. And the same is with meditation. Dr. Joe Dispenza says there's no such thing as a bad meditation.
No, there's not.
It's true. And he does amazing walking meditations. I love listening to his tracks while I'm walking, but you're right. Even if you're walking in nature and you don't have anything you're listening to, if you are, I love to do this, just express gratitude. While I'm walking, I'm just in my mind, I'm expressing gratitude. And like you said, it's a meditation. It is.
Yep. And like journaling every day, like literally just
Mhm.
writing 3 things down that you're grateful. That is a form of meditation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
people that are listening out there, it's really simple. The only complication that you're adding to your life is you thinking that it's complicated. There is no right or
Yeah.
wrong way to do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's why I love just focusing on the breathing, because it takes you out of your head and into your body, into your heart, and your heart is the center of your soul. And
Absolutely.
so to circle back then with the kids and getting meditation in school, I also got inspired during meditation to write my first children's book. Which
Yes.
would you choose? This one.
Yes.
So the reason I wanted to write it, and the whole format too, and I'll just show you briefly. It takes a scenario. There are 12 scenarios. And I worked with my daughter again, and I thought about experiences she had had in schools and experiences I had had. Well, let me back up. What actually sparked the book, after I had the thought of we should have meditation taught in schools, it reminded me of an incident that had happened in in school when my daughter is probably, this has been a few years back, but I don't know. She was 6 or 7-ish, and one day she came home from school and she was like, "Mommy, our class was evacuated today." And I was like, oh, all of a sudden alarm bells going off. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, was there a shooter? Was there, something horrible? And then I was like, wait a second, I didn't get a call. So it couldn't be too serious, you know. So I looked at her and I'm thinking, she's pretty young. How does she even know what that word means? I said, are you sure evacuated? She's like, uh-huh, the whole class, everybody except for one. And I was like, well, what happened? And so she told me, and essentially there was a single child who was so overwhelmed with their emotions, they just didn't know how to handle it in a healthy way, that they were acting out and like throwing things and just, and this wasn't the first time, unfortunately, but I think it was obviously one of the worst times. And the teacher was really scared for the safety of the students and also for herself. And so she just literally had to evacuate the kids. And I thought, where are we in a world where kids aren't taught how to handle things in a more healthy way, and B, where you have actual adults running away from children,
Yeah.
where we don't have a better recourse, we don't have a better way of dealing with this, right? And I thought there's got to be a better way. Now, when that incident happened originally, it stuck in my mind, but years went by, and then we have the COVID incident, and then I'm meditating and thinking meditation. I thought, what if those children had been meditating every day? What if that little boy had been taught meditation, or that little girl who's, because there's hundreds of thousands of stories every day, things like this happen, right? All these children who are overwhelmed with emotion, they don't know a healthy way of expressing themselves. And so they wind up, lashing out, or just, it's like a well, because emotion is literally energy in motion. And when we don't know how to express it in healthy ways, we store it until it just erupts like a volcano. And
Mhm.
that's what you get. And adults do this too.
Mhm.
So I wanted to write a book that would explain this, to show kids, okay, if you're in a situation and you've got this like tough situation, right? For example, you're just in class and you're afraid to speak up. What do? Well, I take them down the one path of the negative thoughts, like, the self-doubt, all that stuff, right? And then I take them down the other side where they decide, well, maybe I could say something, maybe I could try it. They start to bolster themselves, and then they take a more positive outlook on it. And in the end, I use the sloth, in the seated position to show in the end, you're the same. It's just, which would you choose? You want to go the hard route or the more fun, easy route? And so there's 12 scenarios like this to help kids learn better ways of thinking and changing their perspective. Like, what if you don't get invited to a birthday party and you see that all the other kids were? How are you going to choose to feel and think about that? And then I infused into the book, the brave thinking tools that I learned as becoming a life transformational coach. And And I didn't even consciously realize that until after the fact. I was going back reading the book and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's one of those tools I use, how to flip your mindset, right?
It would make a world of difference if they started teaching children, number one, how to meditate and
Mhm.
mindset, and also
Mhm.
acknowledgement of mental illness within our school system. And it was so
Oh
funny
yes.
because I was listening to a podcast. I listened to the Soul series with Oprah Winfrey, and she had
Oh,
Lady Gaga on there. And it
wow.
was the most amazing, like this interview was so, so good. And that's
Mm.
what Lady Gaga said too. Those three things should be brought into the school systems. Can you imagine how
Absolutely.
that would change our children's lives? They would no
It would
longer
change
be
the
looking
world.
on the outside for self-gratification. There would be no more anxiety, depression. I truly believe that you
Yep.
know, the suicide would dissipate for sure. Like it would just totally change people's lives totally and completely. And then for them to
It
know that everything comes with inside, they wouldn't
that's
have to worry about all this worrying about kids getting addicted to social media and all of that, because that's why our kids are so addicted, is because they're so worried what
right.
other people think, what they're missing. They got to be on top of
Yeah.
things. They got to have the best TikTok video out there. Oh, they got to have whatever's trending on TikTok. You know what I mean?
Right.
All of that would totally be eliminated.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's once you recognize that when you meditate, you go within, that you do actually, each one of us, we are here with a unique purpose. Every single one of us is. We are here to create. So we're here to experience life, figure out what we love, and then create, right? That's it, really. But
Yeah.
once you understand that and you connect within, you recognize we're all connected. Everyone, everything is energy. We're all connected. So it changes your perspective. You recognize, you know what? I am loved and I am lovable, and I can give myself, I can tell myself what I need to hear. And once I'm telling myself that self-talk, once I'm running the new plays, the new programs, the new, I'm following a recipe that serves me now, right? Once you do that, it gets reflected out into the world and it comes back to you tenfold. I mean, that really is true. What you put out, you receive, but you receive it in tenfold. And you have to be aware of what you're putting out there. And that, I think, is the key that we aren't taught. And so many people go through lives never even realizing it. But we are the masters of our own fate. We hear these pithy phrases, right? You're the master of your fate. You're the captain of your ship. You create your world. And we're like, yeah, yeah, whatever. Well, we have to explain what that means
Yeah.
in realistic terms, in examples.
Mhm.
It's like when someone walks outside and it's raining, and one person says, "Ah, rats! It's raining. It's wet. Oh, this is terrible. My hair's gonna get messed up. Whatever." Another person walks outside. It's raining. They're like, "Ah, this is awesome. The plants are getting greener. The flowers are gonna bloom. Oh my goodness, this is." And now I get to go inside and just enjoy listening to the rain while I read.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same situation, totally different perspectives. What's the only difference? How you choose to think about it. And it's like that with everything in life, everything.
Mhm.
And I mean, I actually make a game now of whenever I see something or experience something that, in the beginning, it seems bad or it seems a little uncomfortable, negative. I think to myself, ooh, how can I flip this? Literally flip it around. How can I say this is good news, right? If things are in turmoil in your life, you're experiencing a lot of change and a lot of quote, things that are making you feel anxiety, stop that record right there. Just say, stop. I bless it. Thank you for this opportunity. This is good news.
Mhm.
These are ways that you can shift it. And yes, in the beginning, it will feel silly. It won't feel genuine because it's new. And our minds are wired to fear what's new. Why? Because something that's new, often in the past, could be dangerous, could be scary. It could result in something bad, right? But in our modern society, there's really very little danger, thankfully, that we really have to deal with. And so our minds are still wired that way, that anything new, be wary. But we have to recognize, no, I love change. I love newness. I love this turmoil because it's giving me an opportunity to choose what I want, to heal the wounds, and to start down a path that will lead me to the goals that I'm setting. And that's the other key, is we have to start learning to set intentions, like with the journaling that you do every morning. Yeah, we set intentions with the mantras, positive statements. I'm choosing to have an amazing day. Every day is amazing, right? I'm choosing to be the person who always makes friends easily. If we're talking about for kids, or I mean, we have to start programming that in, because anything you repeat does become a belief.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm resonating with you on every level. I'm just looking at you and I'm just like, yeah, I get it. Yeah. 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 Not just with that, which everybody else out there would get it. Like,
Oh,
could you imagine a world if they really truly understood what we're talking about, and that they're living it, how our world would totally change. That's how it would shift to love. Totally
yes.
shift to love. And that is where all the wars and everything in this world would be done.
Exactly,
Totally,
because
totally
why would you be fighting yourself?
no jealousy, no
Yeah.
competition, like none of that.
Oh, the competition thing, I mean, I am so glad that I finally realized it's not a this or that world, right? I mean, we do live in a world of polarity, but the goal for us is to find the balance, the middle ground,
Yeah.
because everything has value and everything is right from a different perspective. I mean, you can even justify murder in some cases,
Mhm.
self-defense or other things. I mean, so if that's the case, and everything is either an act of love or a cry for love, and we learn that it's about finding the balance in between and being true to our core values and everything, then you recognize it's not this or that, it's not competition, it's we are all running our own race. We are only competing against ourselves, our earlier version and our next version of ourselves. We're not competing against anyone else. And
I
when we lock arms and we come together in that, that's how we win. And we start to recognize it's a unique consciousness. It's yes, and I can have this and you can have that. I can win, and yes, you can win too. And
I
that's what I'm all about, is getting that message. It's a win-win. We
yeah.
can all win.
Me being back in my younger days, I can remember being so jealous of other people. And then now that I'm,
Yeah,
where I am today, there will be
sure.
a spark of me that will get jealous. And then it'll be like, oh, no, no. Like,
Good.
I have the exact same opportunity as them. And I automatically shift to me. It's me. I am putting
Oh,
that limiting belief on myself. Stop it, Shannon. And then I just go on carrying my day, right? Go on with my day. But it took
beautiful.
me a long time to get here. Like, we are talking a long time to get
I,
here. And,
hey, I'm with
and
you on that.
yeah, but I'm human. I'm going to have those little triggers every once in a while. But it's not
Yeah,
about that person. That's what people need to understand. My trigger isn't about that person.
no,
That trigger is coming to me because there's that little piece of me inside me that still needs to be worked on. So I'm looking at that.
exactly.
That person's a gift. And thank you
Yes.
for showing up to me, because this is where I still need to work a little bit, and it's getting better, and it's better and better, better. And you know what? I'm becoming a way better person because of it.
Oh, so true.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, I just love this. You are so full of information. Okay. So
You too.
throughout your journey, then, Julie, what is it that you really feel that you learned the most from it?
Oh, I would say the biggest lesson that I learned is trust yourself. You've got to listen to your inner guidance, your intuition, because that little voice is you telling you, coming from above or whatever, but it's your guide, it's your compass.
Mhm.
It's helping you. And it starts softly, but if you'll listen to in the beginning, it gets easier, it gets better, that relationship forms. I used to hear it, and like with the marriage in the beginning, I didn't listen to that voice. That voice told me, let it go. Don't, in fact, I was warned by that voice when we were first dating. I had the opportunity to end that relationship then. And I didn't because my ego again got in the way and said, but you were ready to go out tonight. What are you going to do? And as if he's the only person in the world I had to go and do anything with. Right. I mean, there are times in my life when I can remember I had opportunities or I had the voice and I didn't listen. And it hurt me every time, or it put me, I should say, it put me down a rougher road every time. Right. And then there are times when I've listened and I've been so grateful and I've learned to actually listen to that guy and now follow it. And my life is becoming more and more in flow. And what I'm all about now is creating a life that's filled with freedom, flow, and fun. And
Love
that's how
that.
we're meant to live.
Fun. I love that. But when you were talking about situations that your ego would get in there, isn't it
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful now to know that, okay, say you're put in a situation and now you can see where it could lead you and you can make the
Yes.
choices. I love that. It'd be like, okay, you know what? Uh, I would really like to go to this event, but I've been invited with people that I know that I'm not in alignment with.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So,
if I go with them, I'm going to the event, but you know what? I'm probably not going to have a really good time and more things are going to be created in my life that I don't want. So what should I do? Should I be smart and just stay back from it? Or should I let my ego take over and cause more damage?
or you
Not,
just recognize you have to do some work around those relationships to make it so that you can
yeah,
interact, right, without getting triggered. And yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. But that's what I love about me, where I can see scenarios in advance. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
where before
And
I wouldn't even think of on that level before. Never. I would
right.
go just to fit in. Oh,
Yeah. There
I'm
you
going
go.
to fit in.
FOMO, right? Yeah. Fear of missing out.
Yeah, I'm going
But
to fit
that's why
in.
I think if kids were because that's what we don't have. Like I know about tons of kids' books. I've read the Which Would You Choose adventure books, or I've seen them. I've heard people talk about. There's no book like this that actually takes a scenario that almost anybody can connect with, right? It's a fairly common scenario, and then walks you through the thinking process of the positive versus negative and why it's important to choose and how it's different and how you can switch,
Are you
right? How
doing
you can.
are you doing author readings in schools yet?
That is something I am reaching out, and yes, I am open and available to do that. I've done just a couple so far. They've been virtual, but I would love to go and do them in person. And yeah, I love doing them virtually as well.
And
Um,
what about public libraries?
the libraries, I've done a couple of actually, no, that was in bookstores, the book signings and readings, which was a lot of fun. I did that in Huntsville, Alabama, and out in San Diego in the Barnes and Nobles.
Okay.
Um, But
Yeah.
in libraries, I actually haven't been, I've got my book into several libraries, but I actually haven't done any readings yet. And that's just a time factor.
Right. Because like I even know with our library here in my city, they've got all these kids' activities and stuff like that. And I think
Uh,
it would be absolutely wonderful where, you sat down with a group of kids and
uh,
read the book and yeah, that'd be really cool.
that would be, yeah, I love that. I mean, I loved it, the times when I have read and the kids are there and then they ask questions. And then when I'm reading, and I always, I'll read and I look up at the kids and I can see their expressions in their faces. And sometimes I'll read and I'll stop and I'll say, what would you do? Or, and they'll come
Yeah,
up with their
yeah,
little, and
because
it's so fun.
in a library with a setting like that, the parents are listening to it too. So the parents are learning.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've had so many adults tell me they bought the book for, their niece, their nephew, their whatever, but they wound up reading it and it was like, it helped me. I wish I'd had this when I was a kid, but it helped me now. And I was like, yes,
Yeah.
because that's the power of having the brave thinking principles and tools that I've learned infused into these scenarios. So, and then the other thing is, I mean, I wrote it so that it, every name, again, I asked my daughter which names to pick, but we picked androgynous names, unisex, so that I wanted to take away any sort of, make it as universally, connecting as possible. Right. So using androgynous names, using a sloth character. So there's no, you can't say it's boys, girls, it's black, white, this, that, this culture, that culture, whatever. Just, it's a human, it's a child, period. And I didn't even use pronouns, I just kept using the name, not he, she, his, her. I think there are two scenarios. One is a girl and one is a boy, because kind of the context, but the rest of them are all just androgynous. And it could be, so you can really see anybody at any time, in any country, any religion, whatever, any race, see yourself in that scenario and ask yourself, what would I do? How would I interact? And it's designed to spark discussion. So in schools or with parents, it's a great tool for parents to read to their kids. And, it's like a one scenario at a time thing, because you're probably going to talk about it. You come up with other options. You say, well, that's cool, but what about this? And what about that? And it's really, it's just a fun way to talk about those life questions in the third person, which is really key, right? Because a lot of times it's tough for parents or kids to deal with these tough situations. And if you're talking about someone else, it makes it easier, but you can still get your questions out and get your point across in a way that might not land if you were going direct.
And what I
Right.
like about, you talking right now is like, I'm just thinking of, say, the parent that's listening to this podcast right now, and they're in a particular situation where they can go out and purchase your book, and probably that situation is within your book. From that, what advice would you give a parent?
I would suggest, depending on the age of the child. Now, the book is designed for ages like 6 to 12, but like I said, all ages can benefit. Is get the book and just give it to the child. Let the child kind of go through and read it or pick out the scenarios. But when you do sit down together, or let's say if you are the one sitting down and reading to the child, open it up and say, hey, which one do you want to read? And maybe read the titles, because each scenario has a title. I mean, I've got All the World's a Stage. That's one where a child really wants to try out for the school play, but they're having stage fright. It's pretty common. Like people, standing up, speaking, anything, right?
Yeah, like going
So
in
what
for
are
a
you gonna
job
do?
interview. Yeah, like all
Yes,
everything, right? It's so
absolutely.
relatable.
There's another one, The Music in Me. You don't know which, you kind of want to play an instrument, but you're not sure. You don't think you're good. Or are you going to try something new? You're going to do what everybody else does. I mean, then there's the one about, the girl who walks into the classroom, and another girl sees her and she's like, she's wearing the exact outfit I wanted, but my parents wouldn't buy it for me because you pick it. It was too expensive. They didn't, whatever. How are you going to choose to feel? Are you going to be jealous, or are you going to compliment her and
Yeah,
create a friend?
yeah. Yeah,
You
no,
know,
those lessons definitely can absolutely take you into your
it
adulthood.
goes, it's, yeah, throughout your whole life.
You talking and explaining your book. Have you seen the movie Inside Out too?
Oh, I love both of them, but
My
yes.
goodness.
Oh, I saw with
I
my
went
daughter just a couple weeks ago.
I went to that movie with my my two teenage children, and then my adult daughter and my husband. And
Nice.
everything that was happening in that movie, I kept on looking at my kids, because we're living that right now.
Oh
Anxiety,
my gosh.
all of it, right? And so we'd be, watching the movie, and I'd look over at my kids and I'd be like nodding my head. See,
Uh-huh.
it was the perfect age group, Inside Out too. And it was funny because
Love
then
that.
the next day, me and my son are talking, and he's like, Mom, I really liked that movie. He goes, I would go see it again. He's 15. He goes, I would go see
Oh,
it again. I'm like, oh my God.
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Like that movie is a keeper. It's a keeper.
Yes. And I am so grateful that movies like that are coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're so
Finally.
needed, they're so important. Yeah, finally, right? You
Yeah.
remember the one with the little girl that turns into the big red panda?
Yeah.
That one too. That was about emotions and all, and forgiveness and compassion, all that stuff, right? And still being yourself and yet being, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
But your Inside Out too is even very powerful.
No, absolutely wonderful. And that's what I like about my mentors, Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's got a
Mm.
children's book out. He's actually got a couple of them. And then there is Esther and Jerry Hicks. They've got a,
Oh, love them.
yeah, and they're wonderful, absolutely
The
wonderful.
Seth books.
Yeah,
I've read those to my daughter, and you know what's funny? I thought in the beginning that she wasn't really gonna let me read them to her because she was getting older by that point, and um, so I'd kind of read a little bit, and then I'd look and see, and she'd be like, and I was like, "Well, you want me to stop?" She's like, "You can continue." It's because of her that we wound up buying all three. I think there were three in the series, and I wish they had written more, but she did. She loved them.
yeah.
They're so powerful.
My neighbor girl, yeah, she asked if she could borrow them, and I was like, yes, of course. Anybody can knock on my door and ask if they can read those books because I think everybody should be
Oh,
reading them as well. No, that's excellent. Wow. So tell me,
absolutely.
Julie, where are you now? Where are you now in life? I know there's a lot going on with you, so please share that with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I am still promoting my book. I have an event coming up at an art center next month where I'll be having a booth and I will be taking people through some of these powerful exercises, breathing practices. Some of the I have a YouTube channel. It's just my Julie Deanne YouTube channel. And I post on there short videos. They're usually like 5 minutes or less, and they each have like a little quick technique, a mindset shift piece that anybody can do. It's usually, designed to like be shared with kids, but it's things that adults, anybody can do to just help you in the moment, shift your mindset and start moving in the direction you want to do. And there's so many techniques out there, right? But we need different things at different times. So I'm where was I going with this? Well, what did it start out with? I
You
completely
you
lost my train of thought.
you started out that you were going to be doing a book signing at an
Oh, the art center.
at
Oh,
an
so I'll
yeah.
be doing some of those techniques and then promoting my book and also my monthly free success masterclass, which I do via Zoom. I have one coming up August 24th. It'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Now, it's about 45 minutes. This is a really powerful success masterclass. It is for, I would say, teens and up, right? Ages, I don't know, probably 16 and up. But I go through and I provide you with 3 powerful tools to get unstuck, to get yourself out of self-sabotage, and to start moving in the direction of your dreams, right? So we really connect within. I give you these 3 powerful tools. We do some exercises, and then you're set up to like start doing this, right? So you walk away with these tools. It's really powerful. But this is what I really love is the coaching. So, the books for the kids is amazing. Speaking is another thing. I'm now starting to reach out to get out on stages and doing more podcasts and just getting the message out there, sharing stories of transformation. But the thing that really lights me up is the coaching, is talking with people, sharing these brave thinking principles with them, and then helping them to transform their lives and to start creating and living a life by design that they truly love. Because that's what we're here to do. We're not just here to be alive and survive. We are here to create and thrive.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there is a process to living a successful life. And
Mhm.
that's what I share. I call it the success blueprint. It's the blueprint for success. There are certain steps that every successful person always takes, whether they're consciously aware of it or not. And you can learn those steps. And once you learn, it's just like a blueprint for building a house. Once you have the basic framework, you can add in whatever colors and furniture and design and whatever you want, but you have to know the basics. You have to have some sort of a foundation, right? A framework. And you can even design the framework, but there's got to be a material and there's got to be something to hold it together and there's got to be, the basics, right?
Mhm.
So that's what I provide is the basics to designing a life that you truly love. And I'm telling you, it works across any category, any area of life, all all areas.
Yeah.
It is helpful and it's fun.
Mhm.
And this is a free masterclass. So I'm offering that and I have my coaching clients that I'm working with. I've got a few other speaking. In fact, I have one on Sunday that'll be going onto YouTube. That's with in the Diamond Beauties. and she calls it The Art of Becoming is the title of, our talk, but this is with Sanette Van Breda.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I was reading her. Yeah. Okay, so I got a question.
Nice.
Where is this event next month?
Now, next month, the one August 24th is online via Zoom. So I have it posted on my profile. I, send it out
Okay.
to people. But that one is on Zoom. So anybody can register for it. It's free. Like I said, it's less than an hour. The cool thing is once you register for this event, then you also can sign up for a free one-on-one call with me
Perfect.
afterwards, and we can talk like in depth about your specific situation. And that's really powerful.
Yeah.
And it's really valuable too.
Yeah. No,
But
absolutely.
I love talking and coaching people. So
I just absolutely loved this time with you. Oh,
I've loved it too.
this was great. So I am
Thank
going
you.
to say thank you so much for being a part of my journey. This was wonderful. Wonderful.
Well, thank you, Shannon. When we first met in that impactful author group, and I heard your story, and then that you were working on the chat, I was like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. We've got to connect. So I'm so glad that we connected. And
Oh,
and then we're both TEDx speakers, so that's so much
yeah,
fun.
yeah. And it's so funny because now that I'm a TEDx speaker, how my world has now opened up to a whole brand new area of TEDx speakers. I'm
Oh,
learning their stories. We're walking on the same journey together. And then that's leading me to other doors where I'm walking into rooms where I never ever thought I would be.
oh,
And that's why I'm so
yes.
excited for what my future brings, because there's so much coming my way. So
Oh
much.
yeah. And you feel it. You feel that energy.
You do,
It's
you feel it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
oh, bless you. Thank you so much for what you do, Shannon. Love
Thank
your podcast.
thank you. Thank you for tuning into Fulfillment and Faith. If you're ready to take your faith and empowerment to the next level, connect with me at shannonmondor.com. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Together, we can create the lives we love. Until next time, stay empowered and keep the faith.